I'm told that there's some people here that don't know me. I guess I've been out of town for quite a while. My name is Tom McCarthy. I moved to Winthrop in 1974 and opened the law office that year here, associated with Everett Young. One of my first clients was the city of Winthrop. When Sheldon Larson retired as city attorney, I was appointed to take his place. I practiced law here from 1974 until 1988 when I became a district court judge, and served there for 26 years. Lived on Grant Street for 40-some years, and been gone now from the city for 5 years. It's really nice to be back, and thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope I've helped out a little bit.
Thank you. You know, one thing that Tom didn't say is he grew up in my hometown of Green Island. And I believe you're Irish, right?
No.
This is for mayor. At this time, we would like to have each candidate introduce themselves.
Go first? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Julie Treblehorn. My husband Scott and I have lived in Winthrop for more than 30 years, and I always feel really old when they say that. We have 4 grown children. The youngest one just left for college, so we have an empty nest, and I try really hard not to call him too often, but it's good. It's good. I'm an instructor in the music department at Martin Luther College in New Ulm, and I have also had a private piano studio here in Winthrop forever. Many of your faces look familiar to me. I've seen you at my piano recitals, and you've had kids or grandkids or friends, kids who have played. So that's been a really great part of being part of the community for me. I grew up near Nicollet. I went to college in Morris, part of the University of Minnesota. I worked in social work for a while, didn't like living in a big city so much, and then Scott and I moved here. And Winthrop has always been home. One of the things I really liked about my career, about being a piano teacher, is it gave me flexibility. I could be around with my kids, and I could volunteer in the community. And I've done a lot of that. I've been involved in lots of things, and I won't even bore you with the whole list because you probably read it in the paper. Some of my favorites are library things and city council and lots of things like that. Growing up, my dad was, he was an engineer and very mathematical, and I always thought that those aptitudes skipped right over me because I didn't think I got it. But I discovered, being involved in organizations, and especially once I got on the council, that I actually do understand complex budgets, and I actually kind of like them once in a while. And I have a deep appreciation and understanding for civil engineering documents. I think I lost my dad earlier this year, but I know that every single time I called him, he had to grin from ear to ear because I go, Dad, can you explain this street sewer water thing to me? And he was happy to help me out. So I learned a lot from that. I appreciated the opportunity this year. I was appointed mayor, so I've had a good chance in the last 10 months or so to find out what being mayor is actually like. I've enjoyed the challenges, and I would look forward to the opportunity if the voters of Winthrop decide that they would elect me mayor. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Reuter. I've lived in town now for, it's been at least 30 years, or right around 30 years. My wife, Lori, is originally from here. She grew up on a farm just 3 miles north of town. I'm originally from New Ulm. I went to college at that time, I still call it Mankato State University. I have a degree in finance. I work as a farm business management instructor for South Central College. I have had numerous financial type positions in the past, from financial analysis to banking and the like. I have had prior experience on the city council. It was about 25 years ago, but I've sat up here and I know what it's like to deal with budgets and making ends meet and making things work on a cost-effective nature for a city. Personally, my wife and I have 2 grown children. Ours has been out just a little bit longer. We got one married off this summer, and the other one just got engaged about a week and a half ago now. So that we have that to look forward to coming up. Very proud of them. Other than that, been around a lot, you've probably seen me in a lot of different functions, but I'm sure there'll be questions that'll get into a lot of that as we go.
We have 3 established questions to start off the forum, and after each question, each candidate will have an opportunity to respond with a 2-minute limit. You will also, if you get close to your 10 minutes, you will get flagged, and if you go over your 2 minutes, you will hear the alarm. Question 1, what motivated you to run for office? Can we start with Julie?
Certainly. Just as I filed originally for council for a 2-year special election back in 2014, and then I filed again in 2016 and 2020. And in all those instances, as now, I did it because I really like the work of local government. I think it's great to see things getting done. One of the things I love best about it is that it is nonpartisan. We work really hard to get local, practical things done. We don't get caught up in all the state and federal politics. So we really do keep it local. It's kind of a joke in my family that the first time I filed, I have an uncle who was a MnDOT engineer for his entire career, and he called me and said, "Did I hear you filed for council?" And I said, "Yes, why yes I did." And he said, "Have you been to a city council meeting?" Well, after 10 years of city council meetings, I sit here and I did file for mayor, so obviously I really do enjoy council meetings. I think that Winthrop's a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, and hopefully someday to retire. We have so many positive things in our community, and I'd like to continue to focus on that. We have a fantastic volunteer ambulance and fire department, for which I'm so thankful. We have great community organizations, the Garden Club, the Lions Club, the Splash Pad Group, just to name a few. It's easy to look back at Winthrop and the good old days and say, oh, you know, there used to be businesses like a hardware store and a car dealership, and Winthrop is never going to be the same. Well, I would say that you're right. Winthrop is not going to be the same as it was 30 years ago. But Winthrop is a great small town today, and it can be even greater and grow into the future with smart planning and investment. Our community has young families, retirees, and everybody in between, and all of the decisions we make need to work for all of them. So that's what I would keep in mind. That's what caused me to run for mayor.
You almost got the alarm. What motivated me to run is, well, a number of things. I ran 2 years ago, finished 4th out of 6, so I just missed getting on the council at that point. I also applied when there were the open seats, or specifically the one open seat, and was not selected, even though I had prior experience. At that point, I'll just move on from that. The biggest thing for me in talking to people around town is I'm concerned about the financial direction of the community, or specifically from the council's standpoint. We seem to be spending an awful lot of money. Yes, we're doing some good things, but there's some things that maybe don't need to be done in the way they're being done, and there's a lot of people that are very concerned about that, and I'm here to represent them. There is also a perceived disconnect, and again, this is kind of coming from the people I've talked to around town, that there's a perceived disconnect between the citizens and the council, and I want to make sure that all voices are heard and all voices are responded to in a positive way.
Question number 2, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our town? Brent?
For me, I want to see more discussion at council meetings. That doesn't mean I want to see a 4-hour council meeting, but I do want to see questions asked. I've attended a few council meetings, and I've watched as things come up. They get motioned, seconded, voted on. There's no discussion. Without any discussion, nobody knows what's really going on behind the scenes. When we get to things like committee reports, a lot of times it gets glazed over. There should be questions asked during those as well to really find out the people that aren't on those committees, what's really being done. The other thing I would say would be, if there's a bigger decision that needs to be made, there needs to be more of a town hall type of concept meeting between the people at the top that are making that decision and the people that are gonna be affected by that decision, so that everybody's on the same page as to why those decisions are being made, how they're being made, and if there's no other alternative, they need to know that, not so that it comes up with hurt feelings later on.
First and foremost, I would state that residents are decision makers every time you vote. Every 2 years, you vote for mayor in Winthrop. Every election cycle, you vote for at least 2 seats on the council. You are trusting us with your vote to make good decisions for the community at large, and I've never taken that trust lightly. For residents to be involved and aware of specific issues and projects, there needs to be communication. And communication is more than just listening, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way conversation. And as a city, we have lots of official opportunities for that communication. We post meetings, we hold public meetings, we have public hearings, all of those things. We have a website and social media postings. What I've learned about those avenues is they're only good if people use them. From the city's point of view, we can do more. We can try to make sure all our information is timely and accurate, that we maintain all of the things that we're supposed to, but we need to do lots of other things. One of the things that we do that's sometimes difficult, and I'll be honest about it, we have a public forum at the beginning of every council meeting, and I have advocated for that at a time when a lot of cities have dropped it. I think it's an important option for people, and we'll plan to continue to do that. Whenever I have an opportunity, I ask people what their opinion is about issues, and I think every elected official should do that. What I would ask of residents in a two-way conversation is to talk directly to your council people. It's really easy to make a quick post on Facebook about your opinion. I would hope that it would be as easy to contact a council person and say, hey, let me tell you what I think about that, or hey, I've got a question, can you fill me in? The other opportunity, real opportunity for people is to get involved, be on a committee, because that is like the Charter Commission or the Library Board. That's where you can really be involved in decision making.
Question number 3. What is the number one challenge facing the next mayor when it comes to working with the city council, the city administrator, or the county board? Can we start with Brent?
Communication is key, as was just brought up. Both positive, negative, whatever type of communication needs to be open, needs to be, whenever possible, needs to be discussed in an open forum so that everybody can be aware of decisions. As far as working with the administrator of the county board, we always need to make sure that Winthrop's interests are being represented fully and completely, and making sure that long-term, we're not going to run into bigger issues because of the decisions that are made short-term.
My first thoughts when I thought about challenges for the mayor are the usual suspects: infrastructure, budgets, economic development, and all of those are real challenges that the next mayor will have to face and use the assistance of the city administrator and the council. But in all honesty, I believe the biggest challenge the incoming mayor will face is the need to foster a sense of unity and community. Unity doesn't mean we all agree about every decision or every issue. In fact, differing opinions and challenging discussions are necessary and an important part of the process. But unity in the sense of community means that we're working together for Winthrop's common good and our future growth. People tend to expect or see what they expect to see. If someone thinks that Winthrop is a dying community and it will never live up to the good old days, they're going to focus on the business that closed, and they're not going to notice the 2 new businesses that might have opened. If they think Winthrop is a town of mostly seniors and retirees and we have no amenities to attract young families, they might not notice that our demographics really have shifted and we have a lot of young new families and new faces. On balance, if someone has grand visions that Winthrop should be the home of the next multi-million-dollar retail development, they might not realize what actual tax revenue we deal with. It's not that big. What we need as a community is the common sense voices of people in the middle, who know that Winthrop is neither a dying community nor the next Edina shopping center. That common sense middle knows that Winthrop does face challenges, but we also have terrific potential. We need to work together to minimize our challenges and to maximize our opportunities and our possibilities. It's a shared sense that Winthrop is our home and our community. We choose to live here and we want to see it grow and prosper.
Now we have questions from the audience. First one, should the city of Winthrop support the RS fiber sale as reported in the Winthrop News? Julie.
Well, that's a complicated question, and I've been on the RS Fiber Joint Powers Board for a long time, so I do know something about that. It is not a unilateral question that Winthrop can or can't support. We are one voice in the RS Fiber Joint Powers Board, which is a combination of the other 9 cities that were all part of the joint venture. Townships are actually involved too, but they didn't have the same financial input. To be honest, I'm disappointed about the latest reports that I've heard, but I would remind everybody about the things that we did get from the product we have, or didn't, that's in the past tense, we are still getting. We have excellent service that probably meant businesses like UFC came or stayed here. We have great education. It's been used. Can you imagine what the pandemic would have been like for school kids without the high-speed internet that we had? Everybody takes risks. We do it as a city, we do it as individuals. At the time, 10 cities banded together and thought it was a good risk. If hindsight is 20/20, if I knew what I know now, looking back, maybe those 10 cities would have made a different choice. At the time, it was a good choice, and I still believe that we are benefiting from it every day.
I would have to go, I guess the best way I'm gonna answer this is, at this point, I would like to do a really deep dive into the financial situation ongoing with RS Fiber. Who's gonna benefit from the sale, who's not gonna benefit from the sale. For the city of Winthrop, there's a very large albatross hanging around our neck, and it's the servicing of those bonds. Is there a way we can get that sold so that that responsibility gets off our back? That would free up a lot of money. Gaylord is already looking at potentially voting no. I would say we need to be not in lockstep with them, but we do definitely need to be doing our own deep dive to find out just what is really going on. Why did we get to where we got to? I think some of us already know kind of why we got to where we got to, but at this point, you can't undo the past, but you can definitely try to move it forward to the future. And if that means voting no, to get some additional bids out there, to get some additional companies to potentially buy it out, then that's the way it needs to be, in my opinion.
Next question. What is your plan to keep our taxes reasonable? Do you generally believe that taxes are good? Why or why not? Can we start with Brent?
Of course, I knew you were gonna start with me on that one. Taxes are a necessary evil. There's certain things that a city needs to be able to provide, and it takes tax dollars to do that. That being said, you need to be very, very cognizant that this is the public's money, and we need to nitpick every dollar wherever we can. And if that means that we don't have a certain frill here or there, but still get a project done, then that's the way it needs to be. We need to be very cost effective, we need to be very, and I know with the last budget, the comment was made that the department heads did a really good job of deep diving into their own department budget, but it also goes as far as things going forward. Hey, where can we make something out on need and take out some of the want? Frills are nice, but they're not always cost effective, and that's where I come down on the thing. We need to be able to service the citizens without putting them in harm's way tax-wise.
Could you just repeat the question for me so I can touch on all of it? Thank you.
Absolutely. What is your plan to keep our taxes reasonable? Do you generally believe that taxes are good? Why or why not?
Okay, well, I would agree with Brent, taxes are a necessary evil. And I've said so many times, I wish that there wasn't this idea that taxes are inherently bad. You know, we grow up from the time we're little, taxes are bad. Taxes pay for a lot of things that we really love and need, you know, streets and water and infrastructure and all of those great things. Taxes in Winthrop, I've often heard that our spending is reckless and our taxes are way too high, nobody can afford it. I would present to you that if you look at taxes, the rates from 2020, on a $150,000 house in Winthrop, the taxes were $955, that's the city portion. In Gaylord, they were $1,463, that's 53% higher. Gibbon, they're $2,055, that is over double our taxes on the same value house. Fairfax is 45% higher, and even New Ulm comes in close, but they're still 7% higher than Winthrop. And I would argue that we have at least as good or better services than almost every one of those communities that I listed. I would also like to bring again to the attention, I think Ed brought this up, we have had A+ credit ratings whenever we've had bond issues. And that means that independent financial agents are looking at our spending and our past and our future projections, and they're saying, wow, Winthrop is really stable and you're doing a very good job. That has not changed in the last 10 years. That shows that we've had good management in the past, we have it currently, and our projections are good. So do I think taxes are good or bad? I think sometimes they're very good. They can also be very bad, and I would think that we are doing the best that we can to keep that balanced. And I would also like to mention, Brent did say that our department heads trimmed a lot. Our proposed levy is at 5.2, which is well below many communities around here. So, thank you.
The next question. The demographics of Winthrop are shifting. How will you support the next generation of Winthrop residents, and what actions would you take to ensure that we are leaving a legacy to our next generation? Julie.
You're right, our demographics are shifting. I was really surprised. A recent survey done as part of an economic development group shows that the population in Winthrop, in the group between 18 and 34, grew by 39%. That's huge, especially in Sibley County where all of those numbers are dropping. And Sibley County in general, it was down by almost 3%. For the working age group, we're up 33%. That's the 35 to 44-year-olds. So we do have a lot of younger people. We need to look at that, and issues like the splash pad. That's a great asset for people with young kids. I raised kids here. I know that they're looking for things to do, and we need to be cognizant of that. We need to do it in a way that's not going to bankrupt anybody. We have to keep our taxes steady and manageable. I don't have any brilliant ideas about what we can do. In a perfect world, you'd have a teen hangout, you'd have something for little kids, you'd have senior citizen center, and you could do it all for next to nothing taxes. But that's a perfect world, and we don't live in it. So what I would say is that we will try to do the best that we can with the tax dollars we have and the projects we are working on, and I would like to say again, our Winthrop City Park is just a gem. It's something that we should all be really proud of, and the council has worked to maintain.
For a lot of that, I just like to kind of say ditto, but I'm not going to. But yes, demographics are changing. And I think one thing I always hear is, well, don't say we're a bedroom community. Guess what, guys? We are. We're a bedroom community. So how do we benefit off that? Let's open up places. We need to get properties available for people to move into. We need to be able to have the internet that's serviceable. But even deeper than that, we need to make sure that our infrastructure can support growth. And there's a lot of places around town where there's issues with that infrastructure. So we need to keep not just putting Band-Aids on that stuff, but actually replacing it in a way that it can be expanded upon and you can open up new areas of town for development. In addition to that, if you the bedroom community concept, that's when you're gonna get your mom and pop shops downtown. That's when you're gonna get your little cafes and coffee shops and things like that, that will then be places for people to go and hang out. You're, as has been said multiple times, you're not gonna get a big box store or even anything close to that downtown. But you're gonna have little mom and pop shops that are starting to open up. But until we fully embrace the fact that, hey, we're a bedroom community, the people that move here, we need to encourage them to do things in town, but it's not always gonna work out. So, but for me, it still comes back to infrastructure and making sure we get our bang for our buck that way, and then providing the housing necessary.
Next question. What role, if any, do you see the city performing in supporting new businesses in its first year of business? Brett?
Well, I just kind of answered part of that, but I think part of it is we need to look back to the EDA and say, hey, how can we do things with some, if they're buying a building, if there's a TIF district, we can do something in that direction. If it's a situation, maybe if the city owns the building, can we defer their rent for the first 3 months or something so they can get their feet on the floor, get a little bit of a clientele, and then ramp them up slowly, as has been done in the past with some businesses downtown. It's being as budget friendly as we can be, but yet realizing that the city infrastructure and services that are being provided also need to be paid for too. So get them started as lightly as possible and then slowly step things up for them.
I've been on the EDA, I think probably since I first got elected in 2014. And the EDA works really hard to support the businesses that we have here, but also to bring in new businesses. And while you might not see all of it, I think every meeting we have discussions about, wow, what can we do? How can we bring in another business? What, can we find somebody with an accounting business, a law office, a hair salon, a pet groomer? We brainstorm a lot. Sometimes we're lucky and we do bring in a new business, or a new business will approach us. EDA has had, currently they've got a facade grant going, which will match dollars for updating the appearance of a business. We've had technology grants that allow them to buy new technology, I just said that, cash registers, computers, things that they need to run their business. We offer gap financing for businesses, which is supposed to be there. It would come into play if the bank financing isn't enough. The gap financing can fill in the gap. And I think our EDA is active and very willing to think outside the box in supporting new businesses.
Have you read the existing long-range comprehensive and infrastructure plans, and what would you change, if anything? Brett?
I'll be honest, I have not seen it, so no, I have not. I do know that I would like to see a list of the infrastructure that needs to be repaired, that is causing issues now, and put them in a hierarchy of seriousness, I guess you could say. Also, take into account with that if there's outside funding available to repair or replace some of that stuff. I know that the city, the street department, water department has been doing some work along those lines, researching if there are grants available for some of those pipes that might be undersized and things of that nature through the state or even through the federal government to help cover some of those costs. But as far as seeing the current plan, no, I have not.
Okay, I'm gonna confess some geekiness here. I have actually read the comp plan. I mentioned my dad earlier, who's a civil engineer. He spent his career doing streets and sewer and water. And when I was, relatively new on the council, I had a copy of it and I sat down and said, okay, Dad, explain this to me. I have looked at it in depth. It is a 100-year plan. It was put together by the ISG engineers, our city engineering firm. And it's a really full plan. It gives us guidance. We haven't done everything in the exact time frame because sometimes Second Street probably, according to the comp plan, should have been done a couple years ago. Which, in hindsight is 2020, that might have saved us some money, but for lots of reasons, it didn't happen then, it did happen now. There is a definite plan for which streets should be fixed next, which infrastructure needs to happen. Second Street had to be opened up all at once like it was. It had to go incredibly deep. You would not believe how much deeper that infrastructure goes than a lot. If you drive through New Ulm and they have to do a little project, they open up their streets and they probably go down 10 or 15 feet. They were down over 30 feet here because we had to have that much drainage to get from the west side of town to the ditch on the east side. The comp plan has things like sidewalks and plans for, streetlights and all of those things, and we do use it and we refer to it often.
The city has the city has supported the Historical Society with a $5,000 annual grant. Do you support continuing that grant? Brent?
Absolutely, I think that's a very small price to pay in the grand scheme of things to keep our history at the forefront. As has been said by multiple people many times, if you don't learn from your history, you're bound to repeat it, and a lot of times that's in a negative way. So anything that keeps us tied to our history is a good thing, but that doesn't mean we can't look towards the future either. But it's always good to have that base of knowledge to be able to look at and move forward. So for me, a $5,000 investment, that's not that big of an investment for that amount of knowledge that needs to be kept and treasured.
I would second that. I think the Historical Society is fascinating. It's amazing the stuff that they have there. And I would like to say that the city does more than just provide that budgeted amount. They provide a lot of services in kind. There's snow removal and other things like that. So I believe that the city has supported the Historical Society in the past, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
How should the mayor exercise the power of the veto? Julie?
Well, we have, in the structure of our city, according to the charter, we have a weak mayor, strong council. So, the mayor is not always, sometimes it's the most public part of the council, but a veto could come into play if you have a split vote. And, if it's 2-2, then it comes to the mayor to vote yes or no. And that's an important part of it, and I wouldn't be afraid to do it if it came to that.
As Julie said, that is one of the few powers that the mayor of Winthrop would have, is the ability to veto something. I would utilize it if and when I felt that there wasn't sufficient discussion and communication resulting in a decision, that too many things are being done behind the scenes. I want to make sure that those things are brought to the forefront and make sure that people are aware of what's actually being voted on. I wouldn't necessarily use it all the time, but it's there, and it's one of the few things that I have at my disposal to try to set a tone and a direction for the city.
What is your stance on attending local events, and how have you volunteered locally in Winthrop, and not just in the last 6 months? Brent?
Oh boy. I try to attend. I'm not going to attend every event, but I attend when I can, where I can. As far as what have I volunteered with in my past here, I started making a list when I heard this question last time, and I still didn't come up with everything. I was GFW Athletic Boosters president for at least 5 years. Those T-Bird territory signs, I'm going to pat my back a little bit. That was my idea. I brought it to the board. They went with it, and I was trying to build unity between the 3 towns and the entire school district. You can argue whether or not it worked, but I've been church council. I've been on our church council. I've been church council president. When I moved to town, not long after I moved to town, I took over the Farm City Fun Fest softball tournament. The first year I tried to play in it, we had 5 teams. By the time I was done running it, we were up to 10. And a number of those teams were coming from out of town, bringing in out of town dollars. I coached youth baseball, youth basketball. I was a statistician for the GFW football team for the last 4 or 5 years. I gave that up this year because I just got overwhelmed with other things. And I have served chicken at Farm City Fun Fest. That's just a brief rundown of what I could think of right off the cuff. But a lot of what I do is behind the scenes, and I try to keep it that way to a certain extent. But when I do get thrust to the forefront, I grab it and I run with it and try to set a tone.
Let's see, in the last 6 months, I actually joined the garden club. Since I'm an empty nester, I thought, hey, I can do this now. And oh my goodness, was I overwhelmed by the smart people in that room. My gardens better look great next year. I volunteered with another great group in town, the Splash Pad Gals. I've helped with a couple of their fundraisers, and that's been fun. There's so much positive community excitement there. I really enjoyed it. We have a Library Friends meeting tomorrow night here at 5 o'clock. If anybody would like to come and join the Library Friends, please do. We would love to have you there. I've been involved with school and lots of church activities. I was gonna add playing at church. I do get paid when I play at church, but there's a little volunteering that goes on there too. In the past, I've been on library boards locally and regionally, and that's been one of the things I'm most proud of. I really enjoyed my time on the regional library board. I got to know a lot of leaders from other communities, other city council people, county commissioners from the 9-county region, and I learned a lot from that. But volunteering is what really keeps you connected to your community, and I can't recommend it strongly enough for everybody. It's how you get to know your neighbors. It's how you make friends. It's how you build this community that we all love. So find something and join it.
Thank you. We want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and please go out and vote.